curricula to get through about setting goals. That is one of the toughest things to do well. And we're going to work through it based on the curriculum that we have, which walks you through what Keller Williams thinks you should look at and do. And we're also going to do a little freestyling because I spent an awful lot of my career managing global products and project organizations that did them. So for those of you who have been around for a while, may have been in some of my classes on project management for real estate agents and advanced in the same subject for teams. So this is an area that's near and dear to my heart because it is frequently done inadequately. It's not that people do a bad job at setting goals. It's the fact that the goals they set are not really thought through. And as a result, if you consider goal to be the target, then what you end up doing is aiming at the wrong target. And that's really dangerous because you put all the time and money on getting to that target only to find out that it wasn't the right one to begin with. So we're going to also lean back on my psychology background, and we're going to vet this and sift it through a couple of extra filters in addition to the ones which are standard with the course. So stay with me. I think you'll find it useful. And so without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So let me put this in presentation mode. Famous last words. Now I have to figure out how to move this part. There we go. Voila, can you all see that? Yes?
Yes, I can see it. Am I the only one on this call besides Jackie?
No, there's quite a few folks on the call.
I'm here.
Let's see, we've got, well, I've got it all reduced, so it's hard to see the count. Looks like 3, 6, 9, 12, 13-ish, 14-ish, somewhere around there. Okay, so yeah, we'll get rolling. So today is about sparking your great career, and this doesn't look right. This is the third one. Why did it do that? Sorry. Give me just a moment. That's weird. I've got the wrong one coming up, even though I am pressing the right one. Very strange. There we go. Now it came up. Sorry about this, folks. I thought I was ready. There we go. You guys can see that now and still hear me okay? Excellent. All right. So off we go with setting goals that matter. And the key part is the matter. Anybody can set the goal, but getting one that actually makes sense is a little bit more elusive than it might appear. So as we start off, we're going to look at a little bit of a review. Remembering that all of our businesses work around two basic principles. Principle number one is that we have things we do that grow our business. And the second is we have things we do that run the business. And the key here is to be able to get the right balance between the two. So we want to be sure that we watch the kinds of things that great agents do every day. Because by doing that, we will pick up some of the habits and traits. And one thing I will say going into this, I'm in the process now of writing a series of 5 articles for LinkedIn on the subject of what it takes and what I've observed about success in real estate over the last year. Because remember, I approached this from a background of some heavy data science, and I am working in a field that, although it's been one that I've accessed before, I'm working in the field now, and it's very different. And I've made some observations about what makes great successful agents. And ironically, it correlates very heavily to one big thing. And the one big thing is you've got to have discipline. That's all there is to it. It's not brilliance, it's not personality, it's discipline. You have to make it so that you have a rigor in what you are doing that is so consistent that it overcomes the discouragement of time. And time can be a massive discourager. One of the things that I have found increasingly unexpected in real estate is the failure count, how many you go through before the success count. It is orders of magnitude longer than what I anticipated. So that's a huge adjustment in and of itself. And the ability to push through those difficulties and challenges as you're trying to get leads, you're trying to get appointments, you're trying to convert them into business and eventually into transactions and close them. That whole process is much, much more statistically difficult than I originally anticipated. And the result of things that are more difficult than anticipated is we tend to give up on them. That's just a flat out fact. How many of you have ever set goals to lose weight? Pretty much all of us have at one time or another. I know I have. What's the deadly goal? Who can tell me what a deadly goal is? It won't work for losing weight.
Making time.
Good one. Okay, making time. What else?
Making temporary change.
Making temporary change. Yep, very good. What else?
Unrealistic expectations.
Unrealistic expectations. Thank you, Nancy. That was the specific one. The others are all good, but that was the specific one I was looking for. If I make a decision, I need to drop 5 pounds. When you're my size, for an average person, that would be like, okay, you're going to drop 2 pounds or 3 pounds. That's a very doable goal. And it may be part of something larger, and we're going to learn how to break these down into bite-sized steps. But at the end of the day, if you say, I'm going to lose 30 pounds, which I've done before multiple times, I can tell you that it usually ends in failure because it's too big a piece. You start losing some, then you start hitting some plateaus, and then it pops up because you were bad one day and you ate too much, and it takes 3 more days to get back down. It's too easy to just give up. So we have to set goals that are achievable. And one of the problems in our industry is that those achievable goals are difficult because there's such a long period of time from start to finish. Does that make sense? Okay. So we have to set our minds that, in fact, the inimitable and brilliant Alan Wang yesterday in his presentation said, we are in a marathon, not a race. Now, what I think he meant was we were in a marathon, not a sprint. But it's not a short race. It's a long, long run. So for those of you who are distance runners, or you're cyclists, or you've done anything that requires long range physical exertion, you'll know that pacing yourself is everything. If you sprint too quickly, it's a massive problem. Back in the day, I used to prepare with some of my acquaintances who raced cross-country 100-mile races. They called them century races on horseback. And I never did them, but I used to train with them as a training aid for them. So we'd go on rides 20, 30, 40 miles. And it's an interesting process because you have to hold back the natural ability of the horse, and you have to also deal with your own. So for instance, when I read Road Cross Country, it was 15 minutes in the saddle, 15 minutes out of the saddle, walking, 15 minutes in the saddle, 15 minutes out of the saddle, walking. A long range horse race is not ridden the whole way. You walk about as far as you ride because you have to give the horse a rest along the way. And the algorithm changes based on the type of horse, condition it's in, and the weight of the rider. So for us, we've got to find the right combination for our business. Some of us are just starting out, so finding those first leads is going to be really challenging. Others who have been in the business a while will still find it challenging to generate leads, but you might have a few more ideas and experience that will help you in the process. So with all of that said, we're going to focus today both on growing our business and running our business. So lead generation for buyers and sellers is one of the things we're going to look at for our goals. And then also for running our business, setting the goals to attend training and get coaching. So that's where we're going. Those are the high level methodologies we're going to talk about how you get to that main topic of lead generation. So envision your big life. This is going to be fun. I hope you came here this morning expecting to have some fun, because we're going to have some fun with this one. Okay, how do you envision your big life? So who we are and where we want to go determine what we do and what we accomplish. That's defined as the one thing. Okay, so Gary Keller's very big on the one thing, but every time I hear somebody talk about the one thing, my mind goes somewhere else. My mind goes to a movie called City Slickers. How many of you have seen the movie City Slickers? Nope.
Woohoo!
Okay. A couple maybe. Jack Palance is an old cowboy, and he's been there and ridden the range for 50 years. And with him is Billy Crystal. And Billy Crystal is a city guy who's out on a dude ranch type experience. And they're talking back and forth, riding next to each other. And Billy asks him, so how do you know what's important in life? And Jack Palance looks back at him and he goes, this. And Billy Crystal looks at him and says, what, a finger? And he goes, no, the one thing. And he says, okay, well, what's the one thing? And Jack Palance answers back, you're the only one who can answer that. It's a great scene out of the movie. And it's exactly right on target with where we need to today with finding the one thing. So let's jump in. Let's get your fingers working. Do those finger burpees, coordinated mirror image, get them going, this way, try inverted ones so they get maybe pull-ups. There we go. Got them all working. Now you're ready to hit that mute, unmute button. Tell me right now, top of your head, what's your one thing? Nick.
Lead
generation.
I'll go through the roster. I can see you guys.
Have fun.
Have fun. Good one, Rob. What else?
Call people and build relationships.
Call people and build relationships. Okay. What else?
Live a stress-free life.
Stress-free life. Wow, that's a big one. Excellent. Okay, what else? One thing.
Get my license.
Get my license. Okay, very good. Let's have two more and we'll go on.
Family work-life balance.
Family work-life balance. That's an excellent one.
Block your time.
Block your time. Thank you, Linda. Good job. Those are all big one things. But in general, I'm going to push this up some levels. You guys are giving me nice mid-level goals, mid-level one things to work on. But the one thing in the context of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent and this particular presentation is farther up. So let me give you some examples. The one thing might come out of the movie Wall Street. The definition of wealth is to not have to waste time. So if I can translate it out of that movie, the one thing that character said was, I don't want to waste time. Now there's thousands of ways that's implemented in life, but their one thing was, I don't want to waste time. Okay. Oftentimes I'll hear, my one thing is complete financial independence, or complete financial dominance of my environment, or I want to measure my success in estates, in aircraft, and in ships. That's interesting. How about more of a relational one thing? My one thing is to find that perfect partner in life and enjoy that for all of my living days. Or my one thing is to have multiple relationships in life that are emotionally significant and change based on my needs. Notice I'm not telling you which are good or bad, but these are big level items, really at the core of what you're trying to achieve. And they're hard to get to. They're hard to get to because we tend to think in more concrete terms at a middle and lower layer than all the way up to the top. And it's really important. So let's try this exercise one more time. Let's push it up some layers. Besides the calling and the scripts and the leads, push it up higher. What's driving you forward that you really want to accomplish or be? That's one thing, and it's above those. Somebody help me with that? What might that be?
Personal mastery.
Personal mastery. Excellent, Nick. That was a great one. What else?
Hey, Bob, this is kind of sounding a little bit like your big why. Am I
It is.
on that
It
path?
is a lot
Okay.
like the big why. Exactly. And I'm trying to push us up into that level so we can slide back down into the rest of this class, because the big why kind of drives everything. Okay. What else is a one thing?
Recognition from family and friends.
Recognition. That's a great one. Recognition. Okay.
Leave a legacy.
Leave a legacy. Excellent. What else?
Happiness and gratitude.
Happiness and gratitude. I like that. These are great examples, all of you, great examples. These are kind of one things that we can do, or I should say, these are the big things that drive us at a much higher level, that help us find the one things we need to do to make everything else we do easier. But you have to have a clear view of what those big motivators are. Because if you don't, what you build underneath it will be the wrong set of structures. So there was a writing, it's out of a poem by Henry David Thoreau that says, put your sandcastles, or put your castles in the air, that's where they belong, just put foundations under them. It's great. So dream your dream, but now we have to put the foundations under them. Thoreau every once in a while came up with some pretty interesting stuff. Okay, so the one thing is what we're going to be working on. It's important to set our goals, because the opposite of this is that we will achieve what we don't aim at. It's pretty true. You want to hit what you're actually aiming at, because if you're not aiming at anything, you never know where it is. As a kid, I used to play with my little neighbors. We had a whole pack of children about my same age. And my best friend was a little girl that lived up the street who had 5 brothers, and she and I got along great. So she was into everything I was: cowboys, Indians, swimming. And this is back when I was like 8, 9 years old. So we used to play this game, and she almost always won. We went in the backyard and we took an arrow and a bow, and we'd stand in a circle, and one person would pull it like this, pointing it straight up, and let it fly. So the arrow would go straight up in the air. And then we would stand in the circle and see who was the last one to run to try and get under the table. It was kind of like a game of chicken. Who was going to wait the longest and have the most nerve? So for us, having nerve to go after what we really want, to identify our high-level motivators, and then the one thing we're going after is really, really important. Because otherwise, we'll miss the target that we're actually shooting at. Okay, so with that in mind, okay, think, act, and achieve. This is talking about where you set your goals and how you get there. So think big. From a sales perspective, that's something we always need to work on, because bigger usually means hitting something that is slightly lower, right? We set big goals and we expect to overset the goal, even though we're doing great and moving forward in our business. And this is something I've got to tell you from an engineering perspective, I have brutal difficulty with. And my guess is that if you're out of technology, you have problems with this too. Because if you set a goal in engineering, you better achieve it. It's not 60% of it and that's success, or 70% of it, because that's more than you thought you could achieve. If you set a goal, you better get there on target, on date, full content. So it's tougher because sales is a more liquid environment. There are more variables in sales that you can't control than there is in engineering. You have everything involving the client, everything involving the market, everything involving personal relationships, everything involving competition in the office and with other agents. Engineers don't have to deal with that. This is the functional spec, and this is how I write the code. When it works, I'm done and I succeed. So we have a special situation in sales to try and get our actions and our big outcomes defined, so that even if we miss it a little bit, we're still much closer than we would have been if we had set a lower goal. Okay, so you don't get big outcomes by starting off aiming at too small of a target. You need to make it bigger. So this, what they show you there, they show you your thinking, and the thinking is on a scale. That's your y-axis, and its bigger thinking is climbing vertically in altitude. And then time and effort are across the x-axis, showing actions moving toward outcomes. And a lot of times, thinking small limits small. So yeah, you achieve it, but now what? Having too achievable a goal is not a great idea when you're in a sales and independent business model. Setting big goals that you can achieve or get closer to is a great idea, because the ultimate outcome of what you experience is going to be more. Okay, questions so far? Are you into thinking big with me?
Question, Bob.
Yep,
So,
Leslie, jump in.
So how do we find that balance where we are motivated enough to go after those big goals, while at the same time be okay with not achieving even the small level milestones that we have set for ourselves?
That's a good one. My rule is 80-20. I set a goal that I set 80% probability of getting there, and 20% is going to trip me up. So if I can get away with 80-20, I'm going to do that. If I set it too big, I'll get discouraged, just like trying to lose 30 pounds at once.
Okay.
Okay. So, but if I say 5 pounds and I think I can lose 3 in a 5-day work week, I'll go for
That's
5.
good.
That's enough of a challenge that it won't discourage me if I get 3 or 4. And if I get 5, awesome. I achieved what I had hoped to, even in the stretch. So set them so that they're realistic and yet at the same time still push you up a little bit to strive hard. Make sense?
A little bit. One supplemental question then, because there is nothing I can control. The only controllable variable is my effort, and hopefully the market will also work in my favor. But other than that, there is not much in my control. So if I set that 80-20 target, would that be too ambitious?
No, but Vasu, that was brilliant in the way you expressed that. You have a hold of the actual problem in most goal setting. And that is you set a goal that involves success or failure for something you can't control.
Okay.
You can't control the wind and the waves if you're a sailor. You control the sails and the rudder. You have to realize that going in. So you've got it, Vasu. That's exactly it. So you set your goals and your one things around what you're doing to achieve success, not necessarily how many houses you're going to sell. So if I want a good goal, it's going to be, I'm going to call my contact list 2 hours a day. This isn't the first time that's come up in Ignite.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's not, I'm going to have 3 transactions this week, because I can't control that stuff. Now with time, since I came out of data science, guess what? I'm going to develop algorithms, and we've already heard some in classes about how many calls you have to do and how many touches to ultimately end up in a transaction. And we know that that number is much bigger than we probably started with. So set your goal on something that involves your action, not the action of others.
Got it.
Does that make sense? In engineering,
Absolutely.
we ran into the same problem. They would talk about setting an engineering goal of developing a certain piece of functionality and delivering it by Q4, first day of Q4, 2021. What's wrong with that? Engineering didn't take into account QA, because what happens is engineers take longer than they're supposed to. You compress the schedule at the end, and QA works round the clock 7/24 and can't deliver on time, and everybody points at QA as the problem. It's not. If you're telling engineers to develop something, when they are ready to hand off on QA, that's the milestone. It's not releasing it to the customer, it's releasing it to QA, because they control everything between the start of writing code to the release to QA. They own that process. And it's the same for us as agents. We own the discipline of what it takes to build our business. We can't predict market outcome, conditions, economics, political upheaval, availability of cash, inflation, bank rates. I mean, if any of you can control any of these, let me know, because I want to know you a lot better. But we can't. So you have to set the goal on the part that you have control over. Now, it's okay to set goals of targets of what you're trying to hit as far as your business growth. That's perfectly reasonable.
Okay.
But the part you have to drill down on for this activity is, how can I think big, and how can I build a structure dependent on my actions to get to these targets?
Hey, Bob, can I jump in there?
Sure.
Absolutely.
I was just thinking, so I've done bold a few times, 3 times. 2 were
Okay.
live bold before the pandemic. And the lead gen goal was to have 20 conversations per day for 5
Great.
days a week.
Yep.
The third bold was after the pandemic had started. It was the first online bold. And it was very interesting because it was obvious that things were going crazy, completely out of our control in every way, except for our actions. And
Okay.
what they did was double it. So now we were responsible for 40 conversations per day. I personally found that to be a goal that was too high to try and get that many conversations in one day. And then I realized when in Bold, they talk about the target, that if you have a target that's far away, you don't aim directly at the target, you aim above the target for the arrow to be able to come down to it.
Yes.
And what I had gathered from that was, if we're shooting for 40 contacts a day, you're going to land somewhere between 30 and 40, likely, if you're really disciplined and doing your best. You're going to land maybe between 20 and 40. And the idea to that was that no matter what the storm around you in that ocean, you're still manning the boat. You're keeping it moving forward through this storm that you can't control. And inevitably, you will have progress. And maybe it won't hit your exact goal, but you're going to go forward either way.
Excellent. Great insight. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.
That is so true. I would also add in there that having done, thousands of calls in the last year, I can also give you some algorithms around what works for me on my own personal performance. I have made as many as 60 calls in a day. That was my max. I hammered it all day long, started early, ended late, and I did 60 calls on several days. And I did 40 calls on many days. I did 30 calls on many days. I did 50 calls, 20, 10. I did them in 10 call increments to increase it. And I found out something really interesting in that. I wasn't the same on the 50th call as I was on the 5th call. It's fatigue. Fatigue sets in. Your mind starts running scripts in the background, and you get that inner voice talking to you about, oh my God, I can't believe I've got 12 more calls to do today. Oh, I'm gonna die, I hate this. And what happens is you discourage yourself in the process. So what I did was something I used to do back when I had brown hair and was leading engineering groups, is I figured out how far I could push engineers before they broke. So 40 hours, no problem. It's completely sustainable. 50 hours is sustainable for about 3.5 months. 60 hours is sustainable for about 7 weeks. 60 hours is sustainable for about 10 days. And anything beyond that is sustainable for a week or less. And what happens is, if you exceed that, engineers start looking for new jobs. They start getting sick and taking time off, or they start taking vacations. So if you want to keep a stable group when you're leading big engineering orgs, you have to know how hard you can push them and for how long. The same is true to apply it straight to us. How hard can you push yourself in order to be able to achieve your goals? So let's do a quick survey. When you're calling, how many calls do you find is optimum for you to do in a day?
3, maybe 4.
3 to 4. Okay, good answer.
20,
20. Okay,
but it doesn't mean conversations necessarily.
No.
It means calls,
That's right.
dials.
Right. 20 dials. Okay, good. Who else?
Well, I
What's
did
your
5
optimum?
yesterday, but they were such long conversations, it took up the whole day.
Okay, so it was still meaningful, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? So for me, my optimum is 20. 20 is sustainable. I don't get discouraged, and it doesn't take so much time that it crunches all the other parts of the day that I enjoy, because I don't enjoy cold calling. I just flat out don't like it. I'm introverted by nature, which might seem strange when you hear me teach, but I'm overcompensated. I'm something they call a sigma male. I'm an introverted alpha. which is a strange beast in the world. So find the amount that is the right amount to build the business that you want, and stretch yourself to find out how many calls you can do, as an example, before performance begins to degrade. And then throttle back to the amount that is good for you every day. And that number, by the way, will change. When I first started out, 10 was about all I could stand because I hate rejection. And with time and several months of it, I found 20. And then I started to get some success. And the success fuels one more call, one more call, one more call. I'm a driven individual. I tend to push myself hard. So as I built it up, I just realized there's a point of diminishing returns. You put more and more effort in, but you're not getting it out. It's not efficient. And the next day, I really don't want to call. So 20 for me right now is the right number. And for you, your number, whether it's 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 or 15 or 50, it will change over time. And it's okay to let that change. So how big is your box? Well, you've got to figure that out. The next slide talks about figuring out where your box is and creating an artificial ceiling of achievement. There are only so many hours in a day, and there's only so much any one person can do in these hours. And there's also only so much you can do in your own motivation to continue on doing something which you don't otherwise enjoy. So it's really important to throttle yourself for the long run, not just for the short run. So we're back to Alan yesterday. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Okay, so you've got to find that throttling point. Many new agents limit themselves right away. Sometimes they try too small, sometimes they try too big. It kind of depends on how you approach life in general. But there is uncertainty in everything you do, guaranteed uncertainty. Okay, free lunch to anybody who in the next 20 seconds can give me a off-the-head definition of what Heisenberg's uncertainty principle is in physics.
Is that the one with
What
the
goes
cat?
up has to come down.
Nice try, Rob. Nope. Nick, I'm sorry.
I don't think it's right, but is that the one with the cat where there's like the cat and the two options is the cat's either alive or dead?
Schrodinger. I
No,
think
that's
it's Schrodinger.
Schrodinger's. Never mind.
And it's not the 80-20 principle.
No.
It's you can either know the velocity of the electron or the position.
Oh my God, that's close enough. Yeah, it's particle physics. You can know the momentum or you can know the energy, and it has to do with the division of Planck's constant by 2, right?
Yes. Yes.
Vasu, you get it. The next time you're around the office here and I'm free for lunch, you get a free lunch. Stacy and I will take you out to lunch. How's that?
Can I ask one more thing of that? Can I bring someone along, someone from this team along?
Absolutely.
lunch?
You bring anybody you want.
Okay.
We're paying. Okay. So very good, Vasu. You remind me of that, and we'll go do that. All right. Now, why did I bring that up? The uncertainty principle is a huge issue in physics. It involves the fact that no matter how hard you try, there is an uncertainty about the location, energy, and momentum of the particle. When this came up and entered into chemistry, which is where I first ran into it, was not in physics. It actually changed the way we started looking at how subatomic particles move around the nucleus of an atom, where they used to describe them as orbitals and draw them as circles like planets circling the sun. And then they started describing them as energy fields with different shapes, where you can't define where the particle is at any given time. So when this comes to your business, you're going to find there's uncertainty in everything you do. And trying to find a direct correlation between A and B, So you can say, if I put this much effort in, this will be the exact outcome, is nearly impossible. And that's why I bring it up. Because you've got to have a commitment to do the work and continue to chase it, even when the results you're seeing are not what you had hoped for. And that's part of, how big are you looking at for your box? And if that big box is going to be filled, you've got to keep going. You cannot be discouraged and quit. You have to stay after it. So we're going to do that as part of goal setting to make sure that we've got goals that make sense and build toward our target, even if we don't see the goals progressing at the mathematical rate we would like. So with that in mind, let's take a look at this. My big life. Okay, envisioning your big life is about how much money it's going to take to do certain things that's really important. So if you look at your student booklets on page, I think 3 and then 4. So it looks like this. If you don't have a booklet, you can draw 5 rectangles around an oval. And we can do this anyway, even if you don't have it already printed out. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to put in the rectangles, each one of us is going to write something that you want to do that has a big impact on your life. So the example here shows Austin Pets Alive. This person wants to donate $5,000 to Austin Pets Alive. And then another one is Sarah and Hunter. We're going to assume those are children, and we want to get them through school debt-free at $120,000. Okay, this was probably made a while ago. You can't get through a quarter of the school I went to for $120,000. It's gone up like crazy. It's nuts amount of money to go to school these days. How do I know? Because my oldest one is finally done with school, and my youngest one only has a year to go. So this is a big deal for me, but you need to figure out how much needs to go in this. I was trying to recruit a Redfin agent, and she told me that her husband had taken responsibility of saving for the education of their son, and that she had the responsibility to save for the entire education of their daughter. And that each of them had split up and they were going to take those goals separately. And I asked her how much she made at Redfin, and she told me it was seriously short of 6 digits. And I said, okay, how old's your daughter? And she said, 14. And I said, what level is she in school? She's in the first year of a 4-year high school. I said, okay. So that means you've got 4 years at the amount you just said, and you're going to have to pay for her education. Where's she going to school? Well, I was thinking either an Ivy or Cal. I said, okay, let's do some math together. Both of my boys went through the Cal system, and I went through Jesuit private education. So that's not going to get there from here. Do you want to talk about finance? How do we do this? How can you build a career that'll get you to your goal? And this was a big moment for her because she really hadn't thought about how much school actually costs, especially the school she was envisioning. So that's an example of a big thing we want to be able to do as part of a definition of my big life. And then down here it says pay off mortgage. Whoops, sorry. Pay off mortgage of however much it is for mom and dad. Now, I don't know if that's the grandparents of Sarah and Hunter or mom and dad themselves, the parents of Sarah and Hunter. And then there's others down there as well. And then what we do is we add that all up and you see what the total dollar bill is for that. In this case, it's $364,000. Somebody want to guess what the percentage of Americans is that has no more than 2 months income in the bank at any given moment?
60%.
How much?
I
Over
think
60%.
90.
Okay, I heard 60. Who else?
90 or 85.
90 or 85?
67%.
67%? That was amazingly precise, Vasu. Okay, so the answer is it's somewhere between 80 and 95%, depending on which article you read. Most people are only about 2 to 4 paychecks away from bankruptcy. The vast majority of Americans are like that. It's important to let that sink in for a moment, because what when we talk about building a business for ourselves and having a big life, you have to spend a few moments thinking about what a big life is. You know, we can all think of, you know, there used to be a TV serial called Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, where they had this English guy who had, here we are over in Monte Carlo and the $60 million yacht parked in the private bay. And he'd go on and on about this, lifestyles of the rich and famous. Well, that's one way to look at it. But another way to look at it is, can I get my kids through school and keep food on the table? That's another way to look at the big life. So you have to define where it is. And this is the part I'm going to get all philosophical for a few minutes. Not a lot, just a few. When is enough enough? I would suggest that as you start your careers or continue your careers, figure out what your definition of enough is. It's not necessarily endless growth. So let me give you an example. When I went to Family Reunion Live last February, great experience, saw all kinds of new ideas and people that have been successful and great idea sharing and contact making. Fantastic experience. But there was one thing that bothered me. I went to one of the main presentations and they had several women who had been incredibly successful at their business being interviewed in a panel with Gary Killen. And one of them was talking about her success and some really, really difficult emotional and relational things she had paid for as the price of her success. And then she got kind of to the end of her disclosure of things she had suffered and been through, and the crying and the sadness and the stress. And then sort of toward the end of that discussion, she said, but that's what it takes to be successful in this business. And everybody clapped and cheered. And it was like, thought, whoa, hold up. I think we just heard something really sad. So I don't think she had answered the question of when is enough enough. She kept talking about continued growth. You're either growing or falling back. She never defined what enough is. So what's the difference between having good economic goals or really high economic goals and greed? Somebody tell me what the difference of those is.
When you don't need to sacrifice anything to achieve your goal, except, you know, your own effort and time.
Okay, great. Good definition. Any others come to mind?
When you have defined goals versus just building and continuous growth.
Defined goals, not just ever bigger. Okay, great, good one. Any others? One more?
When there is nothing motivating, a purposeful motivation to continue the activity.
Purposeful motivation. Very good. Excellent definitions. Well done, you guys. You guys are really, really on this. I'm going to give you one more anecdote. I've known one person in my life who was a billionaire. And this guy lived in Los Altos Hills. He lived in a mansion that looked like it was about the size of, what is it, the castle at Disneyland. And it had a moat and it had an Olympic-sized swimming pool. In his master suite, he could turn buttons to turn the pool hotter or colder. And he had these giant boilers that would change the temperature of the water up several degrees or down several degrees in minutes. It was amazing. And this was when I was still 20 something. And he gave me a tour of his house. And we were kind of talking later in the evening. It was a party. And I said to him, I said, why are you still driving yourself with all of this? I said, what's enough? And I said, why do you still go after money? And his answer, I'll never forget. He said to me, Bob, there comes a point when you've pretty much got everything you want. And then money just becomes a way of keeping track. So he basically used it as a game with his other friends as to who had the most. It was like, how many marbles are in your bag? We all live where we want. We do what we want. I mean, honest to goodness, once you hit billion status, I'm not sure you can spend money fast enough to cause that to go down unless you attack the principal. It's a huge amount of money. So I think the difference in there is about purposefulness to building your business. It's about knowing what you're trying to achieve, and you're allowed to change it as you go along, perfectly reasonable. And that somewhere in there, greed crosses over as part of an endless growth process with no purpose. So with that in mind, take your page, and I want you to write in the center, well, actually start with the rectangles, write 5 things down you want to achieve. Okay, these are major things you want to achieve as part of your big life. And you've got 2 minutes, ready, set, go. Few more seconds, and away we go. Funny, since we're talking about goals, I just got an IM. My youngest son just got accepted to the Marine Corps as a Joint Advocate General's office lawyer. So
Congratulations to
he's
you both.
He's been grinding at that and trying to achieve it. It's tough for people our size to meet the physical requirements. People my size are made to move refrigerators. We aren't made to do pull-ups. And he managed to get in. So he's running on cloud 9 right now. He'll be back at Quantico and officer training in the summer. Okay, I think that's enough the time. So give me the 5 things in your rectangles or however many you've got. Somebody jump in.
You want all 5 or just one?
All 5, rattle them off.
Oh gosh. Okay, I want to buy a house. I want to be
Okay.
able to afford to send my child to the best schools.
Okay.
I want to have enough money in my savings to take care of my parents when they are in their old age. I want to study enough income to maintain a healthy life, and that's mind, body, and spirit. That includes going on vacations, retreats, affording personal yoga instructors, things like that. And I want to make enough money to be able to give to charity every year.
Awesome. Good job. Someone else share with us.
can I go next?
Absolutely. Just jump in. Everybody, just get those fingers going.
Okay. Build $5 to $10 million in wealth by the time I'm 50. Have at least 1,000 to 10,000 people in my contact list, and leave a legacy donation to at least one charity. And these two I combine, maybe become influential in the local political scene, or to get another passport.
Okay, excellent. Good job, Basu. Let's have another. Jump in there.
Okay, I'll go.
Go, Rob.
I want a good bottle of whiskey. I want a good fishing pond with a fishing pole. I want a good wife and a couple kids and a paid off car.
I hear you,
Is that
brother.
4 or 5?
Excellent. Good
Give
job.
me a happy life and a happy wife and I'm good.
I'm almost with you. I'm with the happy life and a happy horse.
You
Okay.
can throw in one of them too. A fishing pole in a pond and a good bottle of whiskey. I'm happy.
There is something to be said for that. Okay, we should be starting to notice something. Everybody's are different. And there's sometimes orders of magnitude different. Let's have a couple more. Jump in.
Okay, I'll go.
Go for it, Linda.
I would like to have a fluid cash flow for the rest of my life. Pay off my mortgage. Buy an RV so I can travel by land. Stay home in my old age. In other words, I don't want to go to a nursing home. I want to be in my own home. And I want to be able to give back to the community comfortably.
Excellent. Well defined. Good job. Okay, one more. Jump in, somebody.
Well, I already, I think, said it before. I want to start the plant-based program at Stanford.
Okay.
I want to sponsor and lead it. And I want to never worry about money and have multiple sources of income, and not to worry how much I withdraw from there. And I want to have great relationship with people around me, which when I was writing it, I realized I have many of those things already, but you know, we don't realize until we put it down. And that's pretty much it.
Excellent. Good job. Okay, did you all put down the dollar figure for what you need in the middle? Okay, I want you to do a quick math. It'll take less than a minute. Use big round numbers or little round numbers, and then be ready to tell me what the middle number is.
How much
That'll
is
be
a
the
good
one in the
school,
old-
Bob?
Pardon?
How much is a good school for your kids?
Depends on your definition of good. Do you want them to go to Stanford, Santa Clara, Cal Berkeley?
Sure.
Say 200, 250.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty much $250 a year.
What?
Yeah.
Stanford is like 60.
Board and tuition. Books,
Let's say 400 through the life with some private schools in between and the growth. Does that
you
sound
can
round?
pay. One of my friends has got his junior high or his middle school son in a private school, and it's 60 grand a semester. Yeah. I put mine in private school and it was 25 grand a year.
Assuming that your kid can get scholarship, if they can get accepted to those schools, they are smart enough to get scholarships.
Even then it's expensive. Both of my sons went through their doctorates on scholarships. But both of them also had significant expenses that went around that, because it's back to our deal. They have to get the doctorate in hard science, business, or law, and I have to pay the bill. That was our deal. So yeah, it's a nice chunk of change, no doubt. So, okay, does that help? What's your number? Give me a number in the middle. Anybody?
450.
50?
450.
450. Is that millions or thousands?
That's my mortgage.
Okay, 450, that's your mortgage. Great one, Grace. Good job. Who else has got a number in the middle?
5 million.
5 million. Great. Thanks, Anna.
22 million.
22 million. Nice job, Basu. Who else?
So mine's at 1.5 million, but a lot of these things would be something that would be more yearly. So I don't know if we're
Okay.
looking for an annual number or like the big end of the
Yeah, they're
line
kind of
number.
they're looking for the big round number. So don't worry, you can do it any way you want right now. You're just trying to get a rough order of magnitude.
Got it.
Okay. So yeah, it's going to be different for all of us. Every single one of us is going to have different stuff in there. I decided back when I still had brown hair that, you know what? I really don't give a hoot about a big house because it's a pain. And I always feel weird when I wander through an empty big house. So I like living in a small space. Second thing, my priorities involve getting my kids raised and happy. And so far, so good. We're pretty much through that process and on to the next. And what about money? Money's easy for me, really easy. I don't want more than or less than the amount of money it takes to not think about money. I just don't want to think about it. I want to ride. I like to shoot. I like to have land. And honestly, if I can do all of those and pay taxes and don't have to think about money, that's what I want. Don't you want millions in a giant place? No, because it's too much of a pain to run it. So it's different for all of us. There's no right answer. But it's important that you figure out what that is for you, because that will drive your answer. Yesterday, had lunch with an individual we're trying to recruit to the office. He's in the 20 to 40 million class for having his business running. So he's a good solid agent, and Kiko and I were working on recruiting him. So we took him to lunch and talked to him. And he just left a small boutique brokerage and he went to Compass, and we caught him right in the middle of the transaction where he was moving between the two. So we didn't get him to join us immediately, but he talked about a life balance, and enough was enough. And there was importance about being in a neighborhood, knowing people, having time. He was a very balanced human, and he went to Compass. Kiko and I talked on the way back from lunch. I said, we need to really touch base with him in about 2 months, because I don't think they'll let him run on that. So it's important to know what your big life looks like and be able to define it monetarily and figure out how to get to it. So every one of us has a different answer. From fishing and some good scotch up to $40 million in net wealth, by the time they're 50. That's a huge range. And none of them are right or wrong. They're which ones you want to do. And you got to get that straight in your mind. It's okay to change it. It changes over time. I mean, once you've had the Rolls Royce, do you really want to keep one at $1 a mile for maintenance? 50,000 miles is $50,000 in maintenance to maintain a Rolls Royce. Do you really want to? And that's if it doesn't break. If it breaks, that's a whole nother problem. That's just to keep it.
That's how I realized that I don't want a new car. I want a car that I don't need to pay for.
Yes. And that is why I drive old cars that were expensive when they were new and put together well, and they are ancient when I drive them. So I have a 26-year-old Lincoln and a 17-year-old supercharged Jaguar. They both look pretty new. I keep them well, but I don't want to spend the money for the new car.
I drive my Kia and I'm happy. And when I bought it, I thought, well, in a few years, I'm going to buy something, a little higher level. And then once I paid it off and I thought, it's a perfect car, it drives and I don't need to pay for it monthly. So I'm happy.
Very good. Excellent.
Thank you for the insight on cars as well.
Yeah, same with homes. I thought, oh, I need bigger home. And then I thought, you know, my home serves me. I have everything I need in it, and my equity is great, and I have very low monthly payment. And I mean, I don't need to worry about how I'm going to afford it next month. So
Yeah,
it's the priorities definitely shift as you
Right.
go.
excellent. That's perfect. Everybody's got to decide where that is for you. So we've got this map now in envisioning your big life. So take a couple of minutes and write an aha, or however many of them you come up with, on page 4 of your student manual. And it looks like this. And just kind of write in there at least one aha from this. And as soon as you've got it written down, blurt it out. I'll start on this because I actually did these exercises too, because I'm at a weird transitional point in life as well. And the big aha for me is it's time to stop planning and start living. I'm at that point where I've done all the planning in my life. I've achieved what I needed to achieve. And now I need to flip it and stop planning for what it's going to be and start doing what I planned to get so that I could live that way. So
Can I go next, please?
please jump right in.
So here's my ahas for till now. Set
Okay.
set really big goals, be driven and pace yourself, and manage the throttle for the long run, even if it means I don't achieve the milestones.
Excellent. Great one. Nicely done. Can I get a couple more? Don't be shy. Jump right in.
Well, my aha was that some of the things that I'm putting as my goal, I already have them. I already achieved them, and I need to give myself more credit for it and enjoy it.
Excellent. Great one. That's a neat insight. Good job. Another one.
Mine are be humble, be grateful, and keep moving forward.
Awesome, Nancy. Good job. I like those. One more.
My goals are a little overwhelming, and my aha is that I'm going to need to muster up a lot of courage.
Excellent. Very good. I hope this was useful to do this quickly. Sometimes these back of the napkin kind of exercises, I mean, this wasn't a spreadsheet. It wasn't a big detailed thing. This is a napkin thought. And you kind of write it on the back of a napkin when you're talking with friends in a restaurant. Sometimes those are the best ahas there are. So hopefully this has been meaningful for this part. And let's move on to the next part, which is understanding your goals. So here I want you to take a note somewhere that says qualitative goals versus quantitative goals. Qualitative versus quantitative. Now, what do I mean by that? The qualitative goal, I'm relating more to how it affects the quality of your life. Sometimes money makes your life better. My ex-father-in-law, I'll always remember him for, God rest his soul, for saying, I've been with money and I've been without, and I'm here to tell you with is better. I always like that one. So, but there is a point at which, qualitatively, too much money or too little money is a problem. It's going to eat in on time. that might be a qualitative goal. Being able to pursue something you're interested in. Music. I have a goal by November 1st of next year, of this year, to be able to play a day in November on the guitar. It's a Spanish guitar song, and I am a woodwind player, and strings don't make sense to me. So I'm trying to teach myself something new so I don't get Alzheimer's disease. They say that helps. So there you go. Those are qualitative things. I want enough time to spend with my husband, my wife, my children. I want enough time so that I can take 6 weeks vacation every year. Those are qualitative, quality of life, versus quantitative. How many calls do I need to make every day? How many contacts do I need to add to my database? What is the income by quarter marks that I need to hit in my business for the next 4 quarters in order to hit my yearly goal? If I'm behind on a goal, how do I write a plan to remedy the missing of the goal? Those are quantitative goals. So try and differentiate when you write goals into qualitative and quantitative so that you have both aspects, not only the hard math of what you're writing down and making a goal, but also the impact on you and your life. And try and make the two pair up. There'll always be handoffs, there'll always be trade-offs between qualitative and quantitative. And this is a good way to look at it when you're setting your goals going forward. Okay, so this is $1. And in this one, we're going to look at how does your dollar split up when it comes to real estate. Who can tell me roughly what the average sales price of a house is in Santa Clara County? Round numbers.
1.3 million.
Good guess. I think it's a little higher. Yep.
1.6.
1.6. Good one. Thanks, Yolanda. Anybody else? Okay, for round purposes today, thanks. You guys are pretty much right on the money. It's somewhere around 1.4 to 1.6. I'm going to call it 1.5, just because it's an easy number to play with. Okay, so if your commission is 2.5% as a buyer's agent, and you're not doing any kickbacks, and you're not paying anything off the top yet. Somebody told me what's 2.5% of 1.5 million, and the answer is 37,500. Is that right? I think that's right. 37.5. Cool. So if you want to make 370,000 a year, all you have to do is sell 10 houses and you're done, right? Easy math. Whoa, wait, there's more involved with that. Would it that we could keep that whole 37,500? That would really be nice if we could, but we don't. We start splitting it. So to start with, you've got the split in Keller Williams that is between the brokerage and the agent until such time as you hit your cap. So typically speaking, that's either somewhere between 70-30 and 80-20 typically. And yes, it does vary from person to person. And there are many factors that influence what that number is. Now, generally speaking, here's what we try to do at KWSCV. If your business is on an upward trajectory, so it's climbing to the right on your graph, and your income is climbing, what I will do with you is I will actually renegotiate your split every year. Now, why would I do that? Well, a number of reasons. Number one, it's better for you if you get to keep more of your money sooner, because there is that economic principle of the time value of money, right? So instead of just bang, taking all of your money in those first transactions at 20 to 30% of your commission, Instead of 30, if you actually sell enough houses that you cap in 10 months, if we did 10% or 15 or 18 or 20 or 22%, then that's the number I'll help you set for the next year, and we'll make it part of your addendum. Now, what's the point of that? You get more of your money sooner, but you still cap. So for you, it means your income is smoothed out. For the office, it means the income is smoothed out. These are not bad things. It's good to have it. And for the agent, the advantage is I have more of my money sooner. For the office, it's the income for the office is leveled out. But remember that I did put the caveat on there that your business shows a trajectory of growth. Because what we don't want to see, if it turns down, it stops being a win-win. It starts being a win-lose. And then we'd still renegotiate the next year, but it would be a different negotiation. Your split would actually go the other way. So the idea of the split is something that every agent has to come to deal with. And if you're a brand new agent, this may be a little bit fuzzy in how this works. So this is the office split to begin with. And also at Keller Williams, there's the $3,000, which goes to Keller Williams International. And it's taken at 6% of your gross commission until the 3,000 cap is hit. And then you don't pay it again, just like the rest of your cap when that's hit, until your next anniversary when everything resets. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about how that works? You remember signing it when you signed up, but you're fuzzy on how that's going to work when you get a paycheck. Everybody got that?
I'm
Good.
Sorry, could you explain it?
I'm sorry. Again, please, Yolanda?
Could you explain it? It's Chloe.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Your screen says Yolanda.
Oh, that's weird.
My bad. So your commission is a big piece of money. It's on the average price house, it's around $37,500. And Keller Williams has a split like every office where the office keeps a percentage and you keep a percentage. The difference between Keller Williams and a lot of agencies is that the amount the office keeps caps when you pay a certain amount. And that's generally in this office going to be a little bit different than the Silicon City office. But somewhere around 30 grand, you cap out. And that means then from then on, every house you sell, every listing, whether you're a buyer or seller transaction, you keep 100% of your commission. So we would reduce the 37,500, which is 2.5% of $1.5 million, which is a house that you just represented a buyer on, and you split it 70-30. And the 70-30, the 30 goes, for instance, to the house, which in this case is Keller Williams, Santa Clara Valley, or Silicon City. And then the rest of it goes to you. It works like that. Does that make sense? So
Thank you.
until you cap, the brokerage keeps the percentage of your split, which is generally 30, and you keep the 70% or whatever else you have in your contract. Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
No worries. Glad to help, Chloe. Okay, any other questions on that part? If you've been in the business a while, this is very intuitive. If you haven't been, it's sometimes a little tricky. Okay, now there's more splits as well. That was the franchise is another one where you split with the franchise cap of $3,000, and that is going to be in any Keller Williams office. And it just flat out, you can't avoid it. You can't negotiate it out. It is a constant. So when you then take a look at your example in the math, they show, go to a second here, you can see that the market center takes its cut and the franchise royalty takes its cut as well. So for us, the cap in the market center is not 27, it's generally around 30. And then the royalty for the franchise is 3. And that says for this example that the total amount before you cap out would be $30,000, which is the office profit. Well, certainly revenue, may not be profit, it's revenue. And then from that point on in your year, the rest of it is yours. Some agents that are very, very active and successful agents, in a sense that they have a volume of 20, 40, 60, even 100 million gross commission income. A lot of them write their cap checks right off the bat as an expense as soon as they hit their anniversary. There are several people in our office that do that. Just write a check. They don't want to have to do the math and the fact that it's going to reduce the splits among their group. They just pay it up front and then get on with it. For an independent agent starting out, that's very difficult to do. That's a lot of money out of pocket, and we don't want to do that. So that's how the company dollar is made. It's important to realize that in real estate, whether you're representing buyers or sellers, or you're representing yourself with an agency or a brokerage, all of your deals should be win-win. If you negotiate a win-lose, something will go wrong in the long run. Okay? Try and get a win-win. So the office is not going to give you 0 charges, 0 split, 100% of your commission forever. Can't happen. It's a win-lose. The office can't make money, and this is a capitalist system, and this is a for-profit business. Likewise, if the office takes too much, that's not fair to you. And so that has to be balanced so that the needs of the individual agent and the needs of the office come to an equilibrium. Okay? Questions on that? No? Makes sense? A lot of you have been in real estate for a while, and this is nothing new. Okay. Okay, transaction goals. Okay, net income. If you want to figure out what your net income is, there's a formula to go about this. And this is a very simplified way to do it, where we say if your net income goal is 100,000 and the company dollar is 30,000 and your business expense is 50,000, that means you're going to spend money on marketing, materials, everything, subscriptions, your memberships in various groups. And then your total gross commission income is A plus B plus C. So that's the total of 180. Your average gross commission income is 9,000. Then the number of goals you have to hit is 20 in order to be able to hit the target. This is one way to do it, but I've got a better way. Okay, I'm going to run in 2 directions now. The first direction I'm going to show you is the next slide, which is inside of Command. You can set these up so that you can see what your goals are going to be based on an estimated GCI with all of your numbers plugged in. That's one way to do it. It is fairly detailed, but it's still a little bit at a higher level when you're trying to do planning what ifs. So how many of you have used this in Command? Anybody? Nope. Okay. So I'm going to encourage you to look into this, to take a look at inside of Kelly and the guides of how to set up your goals and be able to run this within Command. That's method 1. Now I'm going to run off the rails for a minute and show you method 2. So bear with me for just a second. I'm going to have to do some quick shuffling of my board. Almost there. Give me just a moment. Had this open. I've just got to get it up and then share it. Here we go. Can you all see that I've shared an Excel spreadsheet? Whoops. Just lost it. There it is. Okay, there we go.
Bob, can you please increase the font a little bit?
I can. Give me just a
Thank
moment.
you. Sure, thank you.
Okay, is that better? Is that legible?
Yes,
Batu, can you read
yes.
that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So this is the economic model out of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And it walks through how you do what ifs. Now, what if means trying to figure out exactly how to calculate how many sales you need, what your expenses should look like, etc., in a very nice way. Sorry, this honestly. There we go. Sorry. And what this spreadsheet does is it walks through what you need to do in order to be able to accurately, and in this case, it's accurately estimate what your expenses are going to be and how much volume you need to do. So recruits added to the first level downline is number 1 on this spreadsheet. And what it does is it tells you how many people you're going to bring in to KW, either to Silicon City or Santa Clara Valley, and they're going to be part of your downline that you'll receive profit sharing for. And this is important. The more your hair is the color you were born with, rather than this color that it turns later, the more important this step is. This is very much about the time value of money, because the folks you bring on board will bring people on board, and they in turn will bring people on board. And as that profit builds through 7 layers and a strange half sine wave percentage allocation, and grows through the P&L of your office, half of the office profits get paid back to you based on the number of people in your downline. How many of you already have people in your downline? 1, 2. Anybody else? Okay, good job for those of you who've already got it. For those of you who don't, start thinking about this in the same paragraph you're thinking about building your clientele for buyer and seller transactions. This generates money that's even more interesting than a straight commission. Because as you add people to your downline, what it does is over time, it fans out geometrically and can end up resulting in millions of dollars of unearned income based on the profits of people you have brought on board, and in turn, they have brought on board down through 7 layers. This is inheritable, it's portable. So if you leave the company after however many years, I think now vesting is 5 years. I believe it used to be, I think 2, and then it was changed last year, I think, to 5. So that's why I say this is something important. The more natural colored your hair is versus turning white with age, the younger you are, the better this makes massive sense. And this is what my business partner and colleague Stacy, our MCA, refers to as mailbox money. I like mailbox money. Mailbox means that my only effort is to go to the mailbox, open the door, reach in, pull the check out, open it, and take it to the bank. Or better yet, direct deposit. Then I just look up my account and see that it's there.
Bob, can I add something?
Yeah, go.
I just want to make sure for the new agents that they understand that it's not just for your own office franchise. I have a sphere across,
yes,
the nation, and so I don't discount calling those people in my sphere. Number 1, to get a referral fee if I have 2 that came from North Carolina, but then also to find out if they want to, learn what it's like to be an agent, and I help them find a KW office near them. I call in talk to the team leader, and then set up the interview for them. So you can have downline all across the world.
Excellent. Brilliant. Thanks, Melissa, for pointing that out. That's a huge piece. It can be worldwide. I want to get one in Mongolia, you know, in case I want to move to Mongolia and ride my Mongol pony across the steppes of Eurasia, attack Europe from the east. It's important. Good. So thanks for pointing that out. That's great clarification.
Bob,
Also
sir,
remember that the
Question.
profitability
Bob?
runs through your local office
I got a question.
as well. Yep, jump in, Rick.
Yes, yes, sir. Was wondering, how is profit sharing compensated, and how often do you get a profit share check?
I believe it's monthly,
Okay.
and it's calculated based on an algorithm that is too long to discuss here. Heisenberg's
Okay.
principle would be much easier to explain than the formula that actually works for this. But
So basically, it's every time your downline closes a deal, then you're supposed to get a check or something of that
Yeah.
sort.
there's more math to it. Yes.
Got it.
It
Okay.
calculates.
Thank you so
more.
much. Appreciate
No
it.
worries.
Hey, Bob, my understanding is that it's every time that particular franchise is profitable.
Yeah, it's
So
not
even
just
if
the
you're-
agent. Remember
Right.
that profitability always is the agent mixed with the office. So you have to have the combination of two. So whenever the agent is profitable, it also depends upon the profitability of the office. And then that's what's paid out. That's why I said it's difficult to calculate. I have tried because I'm an engineer. What do? We find the formula and we apply it, even if it's complicated. And I got to the end of this formula and went, I can't explain this. This is not going to make sense if I try to go into detail. So I don't go into detail. I just tell them it's two functions: profitability of the person as it relates to the profitability of the office, and it mashes together. They do some black box mathematics, and boom, it kicks out a check. And it's about half of the profit of an office that's split up. Okay? There's something like, I think it's 80 some odd people in Keller Williams nationwide that have a profit share check of more than $1 million a year. Now, granted, they've been here a long time. And that's again why I'm saying if you're a young agent, this is what you want to concentrate on now.
It's my retirement plan.
Good strategy. Well done, Melissa. And for those of you who are just finding out about that, you can talk to Hilda or you can talk to myself, depending on which office you're in, and we'd be happy to walk you further through this. But
Hey,
it's
Rob.
important. Yep.
Hey, I got a question.
Sure.
If I brought someone in and decided to go to another office, not ours, does that still apply?
Sure does. It goes with you as long
Okay.
as you're with Keller Williams. It works.
After
Okay,
vested.
great. Thank you.
After vesting, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Okay, so the next thing you want to put down is what's your desired income before paying CO and royalty and expense. And in this particular example, it's $500,000. So your cap is 33 and your royalty is 3 in this example. So you would add those all up, and that tells you what your all up number has to be. Then you decide, how are you going to apply this based on listings and buyers? What's your proportion? Do you want to do 100% listings, 100% buyers, or any combination in between? You then start entering in the average price. In this case, when I last did this, it was 1.4 million. What the commission were experiences. In this case, it was a little lower on the buyer side. The agent's share of the commission, 80%. And then the agent's costs and the royalty paid and the agent's average commission. And we make sure that we've got all these numbers as accurate as possible. Then we also walk through. Now, I'm not going to teach you how to do this right now, but I'm going to give you an offer when I'm done. Then you walk through referral income from doing your referrals and what the effect of that is. Then the total units that you're going to produce, and your net income goal, and it all drops through in a pre-populated set of formulas in this spreadsheet. Pretty cool, huh? Then over here on the other side of the spreadsheet, you can walk through your expenses for supplies, education, equipment, phone, office rent, lead generation, auto insurance, technology, salaries, etc. And you can figure out what your expense position is, both monthly and yearly. And then we've got a list here of some things you're going to spend money on for prospecting or marketing. And we've noted those up above. And then when you calculate this all out, it will tell you at a bottom line, when everything is said and done, this is what your income looks like, what your units are, where you're going to be spending money. And it gives you a pretty detailed business plan based on how you proportion your expenses and income, this balance sheet. Now, here's the offer. I'm not going to take the time to run through this as a group because you won't remember what you see anyway, especially if you're like me and you're an auditory learner. You definitely won't remember what you see. But I'll give you this offer. Send me an email, and in the subject line, put down, please send me economic model spreadsheet. And I'll send this to you. Now, I don't just let this thing run wild because it's the result of effort from our leadership team. We spent a lot of time putting this together. Stacy spearheaded this and she nailed it. I use this when I'm talking to agents about where they want their business to go, when we talk about economic models and whether or not it makes any sense to come to Santa Clara Valley office of Keller Williams. And it's math for me. Why? I've never convinced anybody to do anything with words that they didn't want to do to begin with, ever. But I have convinced people to do things based on math. Facts are facts. So if you'd like to have this, let me know. And I will give this to you, and I'll even give you the option that if you want to spend half an hour with me in a Zoom call, I will spend a half an hour with you and we'll walk through your numbers and see what they look like. Okay? Deal? Okay. All right, let me share the presentation again. All right, you should all be able to see this again. Back on the presentation. Voila, how's that look? Good, thumbs up from somebody if you can see it. Excellent, wow, that actually worked. Hot dog. Okay, on we go. Do the right activities is the next piece we want to look at. And how does that affect your goals going forward? Okay, the 80-20 principle they use here, talk about the big rocks. And basically 20% of the effort of things you do generates 80% of the results you're looking for. So the big rocks is another way of saying, do the most important things first that have the highest impact, okay? Let me ask you a question as a group. What causes you not to achieve your high impact efforts? What gets in the way?
Distraction.
I'm sorry, say again?
Distractions.
Okay, good.
Procrastination.
Procrastination, good.
Multitasking.
Multitasking, right? Some of us are better than others at that.
Fear of failure.
Pardon?
Fear of failure.
Fear of failure, that's a good one. Those are all excellent examples, things that get in our way every day. And I'm going to suggest that there is one particular one that irritates me more than any other. And it's irritated me for years. Years ago, there was a pamphlet written, I think it was back in the 1960s. It's written with written by a guy in the perspective and context of religion. But the pamphlet is called The Tyranny of the Urgent. I'm not recommending it to you as a necessary reading. Like I said, it is a religious document, but I'm going to take that title, The Tyranny of the Urgent. How many times have things that are urgent in your life gotten in the way of things that are important?
All day, every day.
All day, every day. Now, I'm a dinosaur. You know, I taught class one time. I was teaching up at Stanford on project management and Agile. And one of the guys looked up, and this was a theater of, I don't know, there must have been 300 to 400 people. It's one of those theater style classrooms where you stand in the middle, kind of like the gladiator in the Colosseum. And this guy during the question period, after I'd finished lecturing, says, Mr. Stolz, can you tell us how in the world did you get here? And I said, what do you mean? He says, well, I've looked you up on LinkedIn and you've got a very different background. He says, how did you get here? And I said, well, it wasn't easy. Many years ago, mommy loved daddy very much. Whole place just broke up. And he goes, no. How do you get to the goals you were after career-wise? And I said, well, I've learned through the years to ignore things that are urgent and do things that are important. That's how you get where you want to go. And if you think for a minute, you can say yes to all, it won't work. But it doesn't work the same for everybody. Now, I'm going to use some examples. Many of you know, because when I came onto the company, I talked a lot, and everybody knows I've worked with Alan forever and a day. And the reason I say that is I hate secret alliances, where you find out that two people knew each other for like 30 years, and you could never understand that connection in the workplace. I think that's deceptive. So I made no bones about it when I came on board. I've known Alan forever. I'm not in a special place with Alan, but I want everybody to know it's not a secret relationship. So I've known Alan forever. And I tell you what, if you want to know somebody who can do the important and the urgent by just pushing those throttles to the firewall on that aircraft, it's Alan. Alan has the energy of 5 mortal human beings. When we were at Cisco together, now don't ever go up and call him this, but I used to refer to him, and he knows it, as a squirrel on crystal meth. He moves so fast, it's like a drugged squirrel running so quickly you can almost not even see him move. He's so fast. Now, when Alan had more to do and things got urgent, what did Alan do? He throttled up. He had the capacity, and he just raised outputs, and he worked longer hours. Now, I never had the full amount of throttle he had, but I had the hours, and I cranked on the hours to make it happen. But I learned something. When my hair started turning from brown to this color, it started right here, and I had a little patch of white that showed up just to the left of my chin. And I know what did it. What did it was not enough sleep and trying to do too many urgent things while trying to do all my important things. And I continued to do that through my 30s, through my 40s, through my 50s, and now I'm in my 60s. I can't do that anymore. I just physically don't have the energy. If I don't get my sleep, if I don't get my naps on the weekend, I know it's almost like a stereotype, but it's a fact. I won't be productive, period. I get grumpy. You know, I used to use the joke on people who work for me as when they kind of look at me like, God, you're kind of in a bad mood today. I said, I know, Mother always put me down for a nap when I get like this. It was kind of true as a kid, and it's still true as an adult. Got to have rest. So that means in my career in my 60s, I have to start cutting things out and pushing them off my table, even if it doesn't mean, or if it means that somebody's going to be a little bit upset with me. It's just it. I have to do what's urgent. I wish I had run out of energy when I was 30, so I would have learned to do that then instead of waiting till now. Because I did the same thing Alan did. You just throttle up. More time, more hours, more energy. And over the long run, that's sustainable. Just like I mentioned earlier, how long you can push engineers before they break, take vacations, or find another job. The same's true of yourself. You can only push so hard, so long. So start shaving things off of your schedule, even if you like to do them, that don't produce your most important results. Now, I want you to think for a minute, what is something on your plate right now that's taking a ton of money, or I'm sorry, not money, a ton of time, but it's not that important compared to your primary highest impact objectives? Think for a minute, what is it? Find one
I struggle with that personally quite a bit. And I know the answer, the correct answer is always lead gen. But I find it difficult to figure out what is important, what's not, and what is urgently important. And I have a to-do list longer than I have enough time in my life to do it. Especially as a new agent, I feel really overwhelmed. You know, I have to get the buyer presentation, the listing presentation, learn how to use zip form, learn how to use command. And I'm trying to schedule these time blocks in throughout the weeks where I'm giving time to each of these things that all seem important.
Excellent. Good point. So I wish I had a magic answer, but I don't. But I do have a real answer. Okay? So I'm going to start with one for just myself. How many of you know what Slack is? Slack is an application that allows group chat, and it's something between email and instant message, right? We do it in the office. Guess who doesn't do it anymore? Me. It is a huge frickin' waste of time, because if it's that important, send me an email. And if it's that urgent, send me an IM. I do not need to hear that thing dinging every 5 seconds because there's some big discussion. The same's true on IM. When you get IMs with these giant threads where, you know, you look on it and it's 50 people and it sits there and goes ding, 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 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, ding, ding, ding. Oh, off. You've got to take things that are getting in the way of your focus and your big items, and you've got to sweep them off the table. Now, do you think Alan was irritated that I stopped using Slack? I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing he was a little bit. But he's going to be more irritated if I don't hit my goals on the other business objectives I was hired for. You have to say no to something to say yes to something else. So Melissa, that's the main part of my answer to you, is you've got to take some of the no's off. Now there's one other piece I'm going to yank out of my senior director life in high tech. Delegate. Delegate, delegate, delegate. And delegate it to people and processes and subscriptions that you can trust and you don't have to closely supervise. So for instance, Command. You can come in and set up your own database in Command. Let's say you're a brand new agent, you have no experience with Command, and your level of technology does not include how Excel does pivot tables. So you're not used to using applications at that kind of a level. Do not waste your time with Command. Oh my gosh, Bob, you work for Keller Williams. You're telling them not to use Command? No, that's not what I said. I said, don't waste your time setting it up. we have alternatives for people who will set that up as part of a subscription. Do it. It's dirt cheap. If you come into my office and you're a new agent, I'm going to pay for that for you because I want you to be successful. And for 3 months, dinking around with Command, trying to figure out how to get it loaded so you can use it, doesn't make any sense whatsoever in my mind. But I'm used to delegating stuff. That's how I get it off my plate so I don't have to do it. Another one is your forms and your documents. I don't understand why any human being would not use a transaction coordinator. Honestly, if you walk through that stuff every time by yourself to save $400, I think you've got your priorities upside down. That $400 cannot be as important as the time lost to get that transaction paperwork done, in my opinion. And there's people who disagree with me, and that's fine. So, Melissa, delegate. Take known high quality subcontractors, partners, subscriptions, and substitute that to take stuff off your desk so that you can then work on the stuff that's important. Otherwise, it's juggling. I can juggle 3 balls. I know how to do it. I can actually sit there and juggle 3 balls. Throw the 4th one in, things get difficult. Throw any more than that in, they're going to end up all on the floor. There's only so many. I know what my bandwidth is because I've lived with it for a long time. So figure out what it is. You have to take stuff off before you can focus on the important stuff. Most of the time, people do it the other way around. They try to just juggle it all and do the important stuff first. That won't solve the problem because it'll still edge in on you, right? Okay. So delegate. What else? What else keeps you from getting your big results, gets in your way?
Sometimes it's mindset.
Mindset? Okay. How do you fix mindset?
Positive affirmations, pushing forward until you start having the experiences that support the positive thoughts that you're telling yourself.
Excellent. Great strategy. Here's another one. Tell somebody else you care. Find somebody that you care about what their opinion of you is and tell them you're going to do something. That's
accountability.
Yep. It's accountability. It's peer pressure. It's pride. It's a lot of things, and it helps. When I can't get those darn calls done because I'm running into the urgency problem, I tell Stacy I'm going to make calls because I don't want her to think that I didn't do it. And if I give my word, I keep it. So that will push me into the next room. I'll close the door and I'll make my calls. Okay. So get somebody else. It could just be another agent who sits in the next office and you agree to do that with each other and agree that the first person with you and another agent who doesn't keep the commitment once given owes lunch at Taco Bell the following day or a restaurant of your choice. Use those little tricks to scrape stuff off your schedule so you can get the important stuff done. Then you can actually focus on the important stuff. But I can't emphasize enough, the tyranny of the urgent will kill you. You have to scrape it off before you have time to do the important stuff. It's not the other way around. It's not do the important stuff first and then worry about everything else. It's scrape the stuff off first that is causing you to not be able to get your big stuff and then go from there. In the next month, I've got to tell my boss, Alan, that I'm not going to do something and he's not going to like it. I know it up front. I'm not going to say what it is, but I know that it's something he wants me to do. I've been doing, but I'm finally going to have to scrape this off. It's not because it isn't good and important. It's because my other priorities are more important. So sometimes you have to have those hard conversations. I'm going to be doing one in the next month. So, okay. Don't let the tyranny of the urgent get in the way of what's important on your schedule. Okay. What is the one thing you can do right now that would make everything else easier or unnecessary? So let's brainstorm this together state a problem you're having, and let's see if we can come up with a brainstorm on what we can do to make it better. Give me one of your 20% most important things. Lead gen's the easy one, right? Okay. So what one thing can you do to get your lead gen done?
Time block.
Time block. I'm huge on time blocking. Yesterday, the lunch Kiko and I had with the agent we were trying to recruit said that he got to talk to a billionaire when he was in high school. And the billionaire had a receptionist admin at his home who walked him in, told him how much time he had, exactly 45 minutes, not 46. And to get to his point, was he prepared for the meeting, and ushered him in. He said the guy was wonderful. He talked to him. He was so friendly and approachable, but he was time blocked. You got 45 minutes, not 46. Okay? Time blocking, I can also say, when you're dealing with other people, don't make appointments or meetings 60 minutes, like from 9 to 10. Make it from 9:03 to 10, or to 9:03 to 9:58. Now, why in the world would you do that? Because it implies precision. When you schedule meetings, don't schedule meetings 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12. It's 9 to 9:50, 10 to 10:50, 11 to 11:50. Why? You have to change gears in between. If you don't want to run behind and get out of your time box, you have to have what we used to call in school a passing period, right? Get smart about the precision of the way you block your time. It's not just that you block it, it's how you block it. Don't start every meeting on the top of the hour. Start some of them at 12 after or 18 after. And when somebody looks at that, they will think, oh, well, I guess I'm going to really have to be there on time, because they were specific about being there at 2:18. And then keep to it. Okay? Anything else? Jump in here. One thing you can do right now that would make everything else you do easier.
Well, I have a question. You know, time blocking is good and it works if you can avoid the interruptions. And working from home, you get lots of interruptions.
Yep.
I interrupt Melissa all the time because I'm new and I don't know what I'm doing. So,
right. So Melissa should probably go find a coffee shop or come into an office. That's literally what you kind of have to do to guard your time. You have to isolate yourself in such a way you can get it done. For years, what I do is I leave my office and I go sit somewhere else for a while to get something done. Why? Because I don't get any drive-bys. If I hide in a cubicle, even though I've got a director's office, and somebody walks by trying to get on my schedule and I'm not in there, they can't interrupt me. So sometimes it's as simple as physical space. Okay, does that help at all?
It does, but I also want to add that, I mean, so my issues around time block, you know, it's easy. I could put a sign on my door. Go. I do a lot of work for my room. And I could put a sign on my door that says, you know, out of service for the next 2 hours, you know?
Yes.
I think for me, it's the priority thing. So if I have a doctor appointment or a dentist appointment,
right,
and somebody calls and says, you know, say my dentist appointment's at 1 o'clock, and somebody says, you know, can we talk around 1:15, 1:30? I'm so sorry, I have a dentist appointment. I'm available after 2. Whereas with something that you're setting yourself, like lead gen, it's, yeah, okay, you're really important to me and I really want to help you. And I know how much you need my help. So I'm going to move my lead gen to that 2 o'clock mark and be there for you at 1. And then of course at 2 o'clock, because that wasn't your original time block, there's something else pressing, and you take that 20% and you keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it.
Yeah.
For me, it's prioritizing that time as if it's an appointment that has to be kept.
Right. For instance, when you go to a doctor when you have a health issue, or you go to a lawyer because you have a legal issue and you've got an appointment, what gets in the way of your doctor or your lawyer? Pretty much nothing, because they're going to charge you if you don't show up, right? You have to look at your own highest priorities the same way. This is going to cost me if I don't show up to this priority. But here's another key. Never hit a saturated day. You have to schedule only maybe 80% of your hours instead of all of it. So for instance, for me, I use 6 as my right number. If I'm planning to work an 8-hour day, then I'll schedule 6 hours worth of work. That way I have a little slide ability for things that I can't push off my plate that fly in from nowhere. If I'm 100% wall to wall, it causes a cascading fail where once I'm late in the middle of the day, it screws up every appointment for the rest of the day. So I strongly suggest use a 50-minute hour, not an hour. So you get a 10-minute, every time you're successful, you get 10 minutes back. And then the next day or the next appointment, if you do it right, now you've got 20 minutes. Now you've got some breathing room if somebody walks in and asks you a question. If you do it all the way to the hour, you don't. And once you start getting behind, it's a chain reaction. Make sense? Cool. What else gets in your way? What's the one thing you can do right now that makes everything else go well?
I tend to procrastinate the more difficult thing. So how do I push myself to just do it?
Yep. That's a great question. In the group, what do you guys do? How do you overcome procrastination and stuff you don't want to do?
So there's a book called Eat the Frog, which I have not read yet, but I know about it, and
Okay.
it is on my reading list. That's the first thing. The second thing is I listened to a TED Talk that talked about the 5-second rule, and that if there's something that you want to do, you know you need to do, you have 5 seconds to take action. Because after that 5 seconds is when the things that are stopping you start to set in, your fears, your mindset, your story you tell yourself. So if you are going to time block something that, you know, at 9 a.m. I'm starting lead gen, don't wait till 9:02 because you've already started the procrastination snowball.
Right.
Actually start 10 minutes early, be set up and ready to go before that time, and then do your countdown and just do it.
Great. That's great approach. Others? I don't know. Did that help, Vasu, or are you still having trouble with?
Yes, I just have to count on the 5-second rule to not tell myself a story. I'll try that. Thank you, Melissa.
That, you know, somebody had told me once about people that go bungee jumping, and right before you jump off, they do a 3, 2, 1, and then you jump, because it psychologically, when they get to 1, overrides your brain and you jump. Whereas if they say jump when you're ready, you're never going to jump.
Yeah, I'm in that last category. I'm never going to jump. Okay, so here's another thing. When you're working with trying to get something done you don't want to do, part of it is time boxing and part of it is also sizing. Make sure what you're doing that you don't want to do is not so big or so long a duration that it becomes overwhelming to get it done. Cut it into a smaller piece. If I am just starting cold calling and I want to do 20 calls, because that's what they kind of talked about in the class, and 2. If you really don't want to do it, do 2. And do 2 for a week. And at the end of the week, take an assessment. Next week, do 3 or 4, do 5. but cut it down into a smaller piece. That's huge. When I was 7 years old, I started playing the clarinet. I had to practice for 20 minutes and it felt like an eternity. By the time I was in graduate school, I was practicing 3 to 4 hours a day, and it seemed like not enough time. You move into something slowly over time, especially if it's something that's difficult. So cut the amount down, and that'll help you with the procrastination, because it isn't that big. You can kind of just push through it because it isn't that long. It isn't that painful.
Okay.
Okay?
I will try that starting today.
Good. Awesome. If you want to use me as a motivator for, Bob, I'm going to do this for 17 minutes, or I'm going to make 3 calls.
Okay.
And then when you get your 3 calls, I'll send you a huzzah back on the email.
Okay.
Just do it. I'm happy
Okay.
to do that. It's
Okay.
about getting going. It's not doing 20 calls, it's doing the first call. That's the hardest. And then building it in a way you can continue to get it done.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Okay. Lead generate buyers and sellers. This is on the grow your business side. And this is where I'm going to encourage you to really understand what a feedback loop is. A feedback loop is figuring out what the impact of what you do is. And is it the impact you were hoping for? So, years ago, I started a hobby. I like to shoot rifles from the 1800s out to ridiculous long ranges. I have old Sharps rifles that go all the way back to 1874, and I shoot them at 1,000 yards. That's a long way. When you do that, the velocity of the projectile out of my old rifles, it takes about 3.5 seconds to get to the target. So I have time to set the rifle down and pick up a pair of binoculars before the impact. You have to be able to see the result of what you do. If there's a little bit of wind, even the rotation of the earth, if you're shooting on a north-south axis, comes into play about where that point of impact is going to be at 1,000 yards. This is what you need to learn to do with your business. It's the fine adjustments in elevation and windage that get you onto the target. And you hear the big steel gong go boing like a bell. It's a really fun sound. So you need to do that with your personal business. Make it so that you're adjusting things all the time to optimize them so that you hear the bing when you hit the target. So it's not just bang for the buck, it's also the return for the effort. You've heard return on investment. Well, let's change it a little and call it return for the effort. Keep a log of what works and what doesn't work in your cold calling. Write your scripts down and number them and revise them so that you can see the impact of the revisions. If you just shoot blind, you'll never know if a change helped or hurt the goal you're trying to achieve. So learn to do a feedback loop on everything you're doing in lead generation and figure out if it's giving you the return on the investment. Now, I've done that on recruiting, thousands of calls. And what I can tell you is I learned things about what works and what doesn't work to the average agent to be interested in listening and considering changing offices. And I know what I am taught by the training that we have at Keller Williams, and I know what I've experienced on the phone, and I have to use a feedback loop. Some of the stuff I'm told to use doesn't work for me. I don't know that it works for anybody, but it sure doesn't work for me. But I did find things by keeping track of my scripts and keeping track of the impact of the versions of my scripts. I figured out which ones work and what phrases, what concepts add value that the agents are interested in listening to. You need to do the same thing for trying to get a listing agent. Be a listing agent, get a listing.
So how do you track that? Are you just making notes for each interaction, or do you have a system?
You can do it one of multiple ways. You can do it on a spreadsheet. The most complicated ones I've got are spreadsheets going over how to recruit different kinds of agents and how to touch them in a smart plan. So I wrote out each of the smart plans. I time phased it over time, and I can go down and I can look and I can see what the impact of those messages are. When did people unsubscribe? When did they actually pick up the phone and call? Or is this a great way to do it? Or is there a better way to do it? Does the phone call work better than the email? Should the phone call come before or after the email? These are questions, if you keep track of, you think like a data scientist and you start correlating cause and effect. Proving cause and effect is really difficult, but correlating cause and effect is easier. And you won't know if you don't keep track. You just won't. It's too easy to forget what you did. That's been the most fun part about getting older. I now have an excuse for the way I've always been, forgetting stuff. Okay.
So would tracking, I mean, this would obviously take time to be able to see the outcome. So would you suggest trying a certain type of lead gen for, say, a quarter and then evaluating it then? Or is that something you want to do like a whole year and then take a year's worth of data?
Scientifically, you should use significant durations and samples. So less than 12 of any given number you're measuring as far as individual units as a rough rule of thumb is not enough to make a decision on. So you would do it over time, but let me interject in that there's intuition. Human intuition is ridiculously good sometimes. And if you're using scripts in the process and you think, you know, I've done 3 of these calls, this just doesn't feel right. I should try tweaking it this way. Do it. Write it down and do it. I mean, the worst thing that happens is it's the same effect and you go, oh, okay, that probably wasn't it. So I'll continue on in the original way. But don't become so fact-driven that you drive out your human intuition, because that intuition is good for a lot. Humans pick up so much data intuitively that is not included in words or numbers. And you can't afford in this business to just disregard that. Okay, so try and balance it. Okay, so find the things that get you the best result and do them. I'm working in an experiment right now in recruiting. I'm recruiting on a formula of benefits that I've never used before, and I'm calling it for a specific category of agents, March Madness, just like the basketball tournaments for the NCAA. I'm not going to run this year round. I am going on intuition based on all my other calling that this is going to work. And we're in the middle of trying it right now. Kiko works with me on this, and we're doing calling, setting up appointments, going to the appointments with a very unusual and different set of values to present to our potential agents in these categories. And I'm only going to run it for a month and see what happens. But my intuition tells me it might work. So I'm going to try it. Okay? Any other comments or questions? Does this make sense? Is it kind of fuzzy, or is this complete nonsense? I always like this Citizens of Rome thing, right? Roman Colosseum. Okay, good. Well, let's press on. Okay, 411s we talked about, I think, back on day 1. This is in page 7 of your student guide. So if you flip to page 7, you've got something that looks like this. Okay. And this is your 411. So how many appointments, how many transactions, and you list them out there for your annual goal, your monthly goal, and then weekly goals 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I can tell you in this, there is a huge impact of time. Everything we do in real estate deals with very large numbers, not just the sales price in California. It's large numbers of contacts, large numbers to produce a single transaction. It's about a lot of big ratios. So spend a couple of minutes now and do one of these sheets for an annual goal of something you want to see achieved as part of your recruiting, or not recruiting, but your lead generation, your monthly goals, get a monthly goal in there, and then weekly, what can you break that down into 1, 2, 3, or 4? Okay, take a couple of minutes. Okay, let's give this a shot. Does anybody have an example they're willing to share? Your annual goal, your month goal, and then 4 things to break that down into weekly activities. Anyone?
I'll share.
Okay,
If
go
no
for
one
it.
else. I created mine back in the business planning clinic
Right.
at the end of the year. Let me just pull it up really quick. Give me 1 sec. Okay, so for my annual goal, I have either a net income of 100,000 or helping 8 people with a stretch goal of helping 10 people.
Okay.
9 listing appointments, 10 buyer appointments, between 633 to 700 contacts put into my command.
Good.
And understanding my business better. I also have a couple of projects that I'd like to start this year. Going down, so my net income that I'm hoping for per month would be around 8,000. In order to hit the goal that I have in mind. That would be 1 listing appointment, 1 buyer appointment, 44 contacts into command, call 1/3 of my database, and make sure to each month log my expenses. And then breaking it down into the week. And my week goals, it says 1 listing appointment or 1 buyer appointment.
Okay.
I calculated it to be 19 for the year. So, so not every month has to be 2.
Right.
And let's see what else I have. 1 listing and or 1 buyer, 11 contacts added to database. And then each week I put a different thing. So week 1 of March, I have finished create listing presentation. Week 2 of March is finish listing presentation. And then week 3 of March is practice my listing presentation with another person. And then of course my DT, D2 schedule, or 10 hours of lead gen for the week, or 100 contacts met, or 1 appointment scheduled. Any of those would hit my lead gen goals for the week.
Excellent. Beautifully done. I'm totally impressed.
Thank you.
Good job. Okay, anybody else want to share one? Okay. If not, I'm going to let you work on those individually, but I am going to say this: break things down into big chunks, medium chunks, and little chunks. And in your notes, write down big chunks should be something you're trying to achieve over multiple months, all the way out to a year. The medium chunks should be approximately 1 to 3 months long. And the little chunks should be the amount you're going to get done in a day or less. That correlates to something called Agile, where they have epic stories and tasks. And the idea is to see the big picture, but do the details down on a daily basis. It's really important. And it's back to the same principle of how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. Okay, or my suggestion is don't eat the elephant, have some greens and maybe radishes in a salad. Let the elephant be. Okay? All right, so those are our goals for 411. You want to break them down so that they're realistic. And you also need to remember to keep your focus. I'm going to talk a little bit about fun at work. How many of you really have fun at work? You sort of have fun at work, or work sucks. I'd rather be off at the beach. Where are we? Just give me a thumb on your picture. Yeah, work's fun for me. It's sometimes fun, or it's not fun at all. Where are we?
It depends on the day. Most days it's this, some days it's this, some days it's this.
Fair enough. If you had to average it out over a month, what would it look like?
Over a month, yeah.
This? Okay.
Yes.
We all have bad days. How about the rest of you? This, be honest. There's no points for having the thumbs up answer.
For me, it depends on what part of my work I'm working on. There's certain parts that I love and look forward to, and there's certain parts that is just always on the I really don't want to do this. Please don't make me side.
Okay, good. But how would you judge every day as just daily average?
I'm gonna say I teeter somewhere in the side. Yeah, right now. And I know that as I get more streamlined and more educated, and braver and have those good experiences and do my affirmations, that it should start to tilt up more.
Okay, good. Anyone else? Once, twice. Okay, I'm going to suggest that the optimum is about here. It's if you're happy all the time and everything is just blast, fun, you're probably not doing some of the hard things you should be doing. If it's like this all the time, you're not going to want to keep doing it. If it's like this, you should be finding another job now. Okay, or massively changing the way you approach your business. But if you're here, or you're here, the actual point is to find somewhere where you're a little less comfortable, but still having a good time. Now, I guarantee you we're all going to spend at least 40 hours a week for most of our lives at work. You better have fun doing it. Otherwise, 1/3 of your life is not fun. So keep that in mind when you're setting priorities and figuring out what to do. It's really, really important. So have some fun at work. Stay focused on what you need to do. There are a lot of variables in our business, and you have to approach it in a way that keeps you positive. Politics, global economy, global physical condition, money, interest rates, all are things that are impacting us every day. And by golly, we got to stay upbeat about them. Okay. Accountable people achieve results others can only dream of. Why? Because accountable people actually get things done. We hit this with Alan yesterday. I think we're pretty much at the end of new materials. And what we have from here to the end is just recapping what you've already done in scripting. So any questions as we end up today? I'm going to leave us here. Going once? Going twice? All right. Then I'm going to thank you each and every one for being here today. You've been a great class. I've really enjoyed working with you. Any questions you have, be sure to let me know. And if you want that spreadsheet, send me an email and I'll send it to you. And if you want, I'll set up a meeting and we can run through it together. Okay? Very good. I thank you all. You guys have a great day. And I hope to see and hear from you again soon.
Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. All the rest of you as
Guys.
well for all your insights.
Thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.